Yeah, well, I always say that the universe is like the best writer, the most efficient writer. It happened on a soccer field. So I was a freshman in college. I had a sprained ankle, and I was like watching the practice. And the PA from a film like that was being shot on the other field walked up to our practice and was like, "Hey, we're looking for extras." And I was like, instead of like just sitting here and kind of like just watching, why not go figure what this is? And walked over, and I got to see Riz Ahmed as the lead of this movie called The Reluctant Fundamentalist. Like, Kiefer Sutherland was in it. It was directed by Mira Nair. And when I saw Riz, I was like, wait a second. He's not like, I'd always imagined that Hollywood was like only like white leads for the most part in films like this. And so I was like, if Riz could do it, and specifically it was a soccer scene, and he kept having to do this one thing over and over again, I'm like, I could do that right now. And it just kind of was such a clear, like, direct path of like, he's quite literally playing soccer in the movie, and I kind of were like, I was able to place myself in that. And so at that point, the moment I realized I wasn't going to play professionally, and I knew the next thing I wanted to do in my life was craft-based, something that I could just put hours into and be able to see my improvement and be able to have a goal to get to. The next day I had bought a bunch of acting books, and I realized it was a place to explore and investigate. And then I kept doing more extra work to see if I liked being on the set or if it was just because it was cool because it was soccer. And I just fell in love. From everything I've ever watched, I would take away from it that I'd want to be the profession. So for instance, if I'd watch House, I want to be a doctor. I'm like, oh, I want to be Dr. House. Or if I watch Boston Legal, I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer. Or Fast and Furious, I'm like, I'm going to be an illegal race car driver. And I didn't realize that I wanted to be all of it. I wanted to be able to put myself into the many lives of everyone around me. And so, yeah, I knew that I wanted to pursue something craft-based. And it happened to be that through Riz, I got to see that, and through it's honestly, it's like the trailblazing he's done and others before. That was like I was able to just see myself, because I think that was the most important part. Was had I seen that and it had been somebody else, I might have been like, all right, cool, that's what they do. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that was the moment that it kind of switched over, and so it was very tightly written. I saw him, so outside of seeing him at this after party for the Oscars, and he had an Oscar in his hand, I told him then, and he was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then I saw him on a different set, and on that set, he was like, oh man, I've been keeping up with your career. I've talked to other people around, like, it's so exciting. And I'm like, actually, you're a big reason as to why I'm even here. And it registered finally, I think, in that way, that he's like, oh no, he literally was an extra on a project that I was a lead in. And actually 2 days ago, I saw on Twitter a scene from that movie that I hadn't seen it in a while, since I tried to find myself in the background. But yeah, and that's the type of movie that I'd want to do anyway. And so it was interesting that like the first way into it was that, and it wasn't a different tonal piece or a different genre. But yeah, I was able to tell him. Yeah, I think it's like about, the way I look at it, it's about permission. I think it's permission to go pursue something that feels insane to even speak outside. I think the tropes about being an actor and your family being like, oh, so you mean you're going to be a waiter? I think it comes from this place of like, it's such a big dream, it's such a pipe dream, it's so far away from people in Miami, from people in Chicago. It's just it's something that just doesn't happen, that I needed to be able to see myself in someone as that lead, as someone that has the responsibility and the privilege to tell a story. For me, like I say this all the time, it was the Miami Hurricanes. Like, they were just down the street. It was a bunch of amazing all-time players, and because they were so close to me, I was like, all right, they're going out and trying to be great. I have permission to do that as an athlete, and eventually into what I fell into. But in my high school, like for instance, Danny Pino, he graduated from Coral Park and then went to NYU, and had heard about it. And so I think it was like an amalgamation. I needed more than one permission. Like, for instance, like Danny, we have the same name. He went to the same high school and then went to NYU. And so I needed like a linear path to be like, I could actually do this and do it in a space that has previously received people, where before I didn't think it was possible at all. Yeah. The stuff that I loved was like City of God, and like I'd have to go to Brazil to go shoot that, or it just never seemed accessible. And so I needed, in some ways, permission leaders to be like, yeah, I'm doing it, you could too. Well, I think both. Without a doubt, honor, because it's to be looked at in any light that's positive with an added responsibility. I think it's like it's a place of privilege, and to connect it back to the permission of it all. I think we talk about representation in ways that I think feel intangible. It feels like just a lot of truisms and things that we just are saying out loud, and or at least specifically that's how I felt initially. But experiencing, I think, what that permission is, I think the representation I've seen and in some way has been permission for me to go pursue this, and then doing Marvel and Top Gun and all these other amazing projects I've been able to be a part of, understanding what that representation is giving others, which is the permission. And had never connected it to that until just seeing like just people out of the woodworks asking like, how do I get there? Like I'm now doing this. Can you give me some pointers? And I think being viewed in that position is one of great honor, and I think and then continuing to try to give people that permission, and ultimately it's giving people that permission and to hit a certain bar of craft, because I think there's also, I mean, the whole conversations about like how people view us from the DEI perspective, all these things, they don't think that there's merit associated to it. And we've always had to work harder and be more thorough and go above and beyond that. I think it's, to me, been connected with like, all right, I got to prove people wrong, that I'm going to go above and beyond, and that I'm going to be better than what they expect, but also better than what they're doing. And so it became slightly competitive for me in the way that I'm like, I just have to put more work into this than anything else. And so I think passing that in a non-toxic way, responsibility down of being like, go do it, but when you do it, try to like not do it to the standard of because we haven't had the opportunity, but do it to the overall standard of what people are expecting. And so it's and the thing is, like, we've had that quality, we've had that talent, we've had some of the best artists across the board that have tried, and some have been given the platform, and some others that are incredibly talented have not. And so it's a mix of like that new wave of people and giving them that permission to go out and be great, and also trying to find out who else is already at this incredible level that just needs the platform. And so I think that's where I'm excited of like what this next step is, in trying to find those creatives, trying to create some creatives, and then being one myself. I think the first Baton, the film that I'm directing, that I wrote and I'm starring in, that sounds insane to say, but that came from a place of around 2018. I just done Assassination Nation, had just come out, or was about to come out, and I realized like all these opportunities I saw other people like being able to have because of these roles were being written, and amazing work that was the exact sensibility of things that I wanted to do, but it just wasn't being written for me. It was something that either someone became attached at a very early like stage, or just was something that like just other people's imagination wasn't open for it being me, or I was too early in the process. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, well, I could easily complain about this and be mad that there's no opportunity. And before doing that, I was like, well, let me figure out if I could, in the same way that I learned acting and this craft, and approached it and attacked it like a madman. I was like quite literally counting how many hours I was putting into it. It was ridiculous. But in that same way, I'm like, I feel confident in like, I've been able to start something from scratch and see the growth. Why not jump into a different medium and see what happens with that? And so, and at the very least, I'll be able to get a story out, and even if no one reads it. And so I started writing Baton after reading a bunch of writing books and this like psychology books of screenwriters and all the, like I was just trying to take it all in. And then it sort of kind of started developing into something, and I shared it with Tom Culliver, my producing partner that I'm tackling Pinstripes with, our production company. And he went to NYU Film, and so obviously I went to NYU for acting, but he went for the film program. And I came to learn this through people being honest with me, where they're like, whenever an actor says that they want to write, we all collectively say like, yeah, sure, great. Because it never comes to fruition, or like very rarely. And so when I told him that, and then I shared it with him, and Neve Gaffney, I shared it with them, and I saw them both kind of change their tune. And then the conversations around like really having a production company and starting this up started from then. But I got to see like them kind of be surprised when they read it. They're like, oh, there's definitely something here, and you have a clear voice specifically to you that was learned through the books and all these things. But it was one of those things that came from the lack of opportunity, but also understanding that like if it's not there, I can't complain about it. Me complaining about it isn't going to change it. Yeah. And then from that same conversation jumped over to directing when we started trying to figure out what director to put onto it. Through different studios and different companies that we met, everyone would have the question of like, who? Mm-hmm. That's a hyper-specific story. Who's like the right person to take it on? And then it came into like, well, it's probably best suited for it to be me, and which is a weird thing to ever even consider. Like I thought if I'd direct, it'd be later on. And so in this production process, it's been one of those things that there's so many directors capable of it, but then it's like, within finding the right fit, there's so few. And so yeah, it's come from like opportunity and responsibility and a challenge. Yeah, it's and who knows what the next part of that is, because it's a, I don't know, it's like it feels like a fun way to approach life of like, there's a problem, I could be the solution, or I could find the solution, or I feel like I now have the confidence of like, if I don't know something, and this is where someone like Tom Cruise, like in his advice through my life has been like game changing, which is like you could learn something, like always like try to learn two things like actively. And so whether it's dance or whether it's a different craft or learning about a specific time period, there's always something that you could do. And I think having the confidence that like you're gonna learn is the other part that I find incredibly exciting. I thought I was handing over the most embarrassing thing I've ever, because it's so close to home and it was so intimate and vulnerable. I was like, oh, man, I'm gonna embarrass myself and like pants myself at the same time. But yeah, it's felt like a domino effect, and every time I look back at it, I'm like, one domino hits the other side, and I'm in a completely different realm. But I think the thing that, again, I'm going back on permission, sorry. It's like in these people that I've had the privilege to work with, the Tom Cruises, the Claire Denis of the world, Joe Kosinski, Claudio Miranda, across, like it's doing a commercial with Rodrigo Prieto, like it's in understanding like their excellence, but their permission that I got from them and like them being such open books is like they're human, and a part of their process early on was in understanding limitations, but also how to supersede that, how to like what to do to still get your vision to happen. And yeah, I think it's been like the problem solver mentality. I don't know. It's my mom would always like, she always looks at things with such a positive outlook of like, if this street's closed, like find a different path. like today, their Dodgers are celebrating the World Series. Shut down every route, but I found a way to the interview. It always goes back to permission. Like when we were shooting Stars at Noon, we had a driving scene to shoot with Margaret Qualley and Claire and Joe Alwyn, and Claire was in the back of the car, and she needed to get the monitor, but the shot would show her in it, and so she just put herself in the trunk of the car. And we went out and we drove through Panama streets as I was basically pursuing them in this movie. But it was one of those things that, like, she's such a gamer, and her approach to it was, I think, something that was so direct. Like, it was so clear that it was for, like, the betterment of the story, and to be able to problem solve. And I think that gave me permission of, like, sometimes it's the most obvious. Granted, I don't know if insurance is happy for them to hear me say that, but I think it's like there's no, like, well, I guess we can't get the shot, right? It was like a quick fix, and it was the most badass thing I've ever seen, just seeing her in the trunk of the car like that. But yeah, I think it's been also the part that I guess not many people talk about is also in times of failures, on projects where I'd realize, oh my God, like, I know 15 people that could step in and lead in that way or do that, and they just haven't had the confidence or haven't had the, for many, the opportunity. But part of that is also, like, I've seen people that are given the chance, they're like, you know what, I'm not ready for it. And then I've been able to see so many people that are like, screw it, I'm going to take the reins and we'll figure it out. And being in those productions with them, I'm like, that's a beautiful trait to have. And we're here in the trenches with you, and we're learning as we go. But I think there's just something to, like, that leap of faith that we're all human. There's gonna be mistakes anyway. That why not just have it be you? A dream. I was just looking back at the projects I was able to do, the experiences I've been able to have, the friends I've made along the way. No, I think across the board, it's been creatively incredibly fruitful. I've been able to continue writing and I think 2 scripts this year. I've been a part of some amazing productions. I've been able to see the world. It's been a dream. It's been to be able to do the Captain America press tour and start the year off that way. It's one of those moments that, like, during that press tour, just looking over and seeing Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie and being in the same table with them and viewing each other in that way, I think was a moment that I'm like, okay, well, I'm in it now, and there's respect there, and there's a lot of work to be done still. But I think that's I always go back to when I first started. I think it was so clear, like, reading my first acting book, The Great Acting Teachers, and in the back of that book there's, like, several schools to attend to after. And I remember vividly, like, sitting in my dorm in Atlanta thinking, like, well, I'm never going to these. I wonder what the other way is. I ended up going to NYU, which was the second recommended, but it was one of those, like, the process felt so far and so impossible that these little check-in moments have felt like a dream of, like, yeah, I'm in this movie in a substantial role and with creatives that I respect and I adore. And so, yeah. Well, it's funny, I don't... It's so interesting to think, I don't consider myself a household name. It's a weird concept now where my day-to-day is not necessarily affected. I'm either training or working on a project, watching Miami Hurricanes football, or learning something. And so I think that's kind of stayed the same. I have the privilege of putting on glasses and growing a weird little mustache that comes out, or my hair changing so drastically that I think I'm okay with the recognition, specifically outside. That's kind of stayed identical. I don't know if I felt like encroached on, or if something's been, I've had to give up something. I think, yeah, I mean, it's stayed pretty consistent with the things that I like, and if anything, I found more freedom in feeling confident with the work that I'm going to be doing, and then realizing, like, I find happiness in these very simple things that I used to find happiness growing up as well. And so I think, if anything, it's giving me more clarity as to what's important. Actually, I'll say time. Time is tougher now because of, I think, knowing what it takes to try to make something great, and then sorting out what that balance of that time is.
And trying to make it all work for you.
Yeah, and for everyone around, and I think that's definitely one. Yeah, I feel like that's about it. And what's the other part of the question?
And then what's been the worst part? But I guess.
Oh, no, the worst part was time.
Yeah.
And so I guess I answered. Yeah, the worst part would be like figuring out, like. But that's self-imposed, so I don't think that's necessarily bad.
That could be your answer too.
Yeah, but the good, I think, has been like the clarity of, like, this makes me happy, I'm gonna go do that in my free time. And so, yeah.
It's time, but also making time work for yourself.
Both. I think it's like, I think it's the double-edged sword of finding that out. But yeah, no, I feel pretty good. I think I'll go with the first, Assassination Nation. I think what that meant for me creatively, like I was working with Kelvin Harrison Jr. already, and we were just both supporting characters in it. It was Suki Waterhouse, Odessa Young, Hari Neff, Bill Skarsgård. It was obviously directed by Sam Levinson. Marcel Rev was the cinematographer, and like I learned so much from Marcel. I was like making little Instagram videos copying his shooting style, and I ended up having 2 roommates from that movie. Lucas Gage was also a part of it. And so it's one of those that, like, it was jam-packed with so much talent, and I'm missing people for sure. Joe McHale, Cody Christian, that Abra, Jesus. That I think it, like, set the tone for how I was going to approach the next batch of work, that I was like, I just want to be creatively fulfilled, and so I'd go do indies. Like, I kind of want to live in that world, and obviously the other things opened up with the bigger films, but that's one that I'd want them to revisit, because I think of how fresh the movie was and how amazing the performances were. And a lot of people say, like, Assassination Nation walked so Euphoria could run. And there is a definite connection in that space. But I'd say that one, to just go to square one.